Back when 2020 hadn't turned into a complete dumpster fire and all we had to worry about was the possibility of World War III, we still had some things to look forward to, like Doom Eternal. I was unfamiliar with Doom as a franchise apart from that one movie, but we won't talk about that, so playing Doom 2016 for me was unlike any other first-person shooter I'd experienced until then. The fluidity, the environments, Mick Gordon's epic soundtrack, all of these elements and more combined to make Doom 2016 a one-of-a-kind experience that's still hard to beat even 4 years after its release. So with me looking for an excuse to play it some more and the anticipated sequel, Doom Eternal, releasing earlier in the year, back in March I put together a Redux trailer that I'll be breaking down for you right now. First things first, everything in this edit was captured on an Xbox One X using the DVR function. I captured everything directly to an external hard drive, which on the One X lets you record in 4K HDR10 for extended periods of time up to an hour. Like with most things, I'm sure this process would have been infinitely easier on a PC, but I wanted to try a specific method on the Xbox, which I'll get to in a minute. At this point, I've sunk close to 150 hours into Doom 2016, so I'm very familiar with each of the levels. Making a list of points of interest I knew I wanted to capture, whether it was cool landscapes, enemy encounters, or boss fights, I then jumped into each level and captured footage in 2 different ways. The first and easiest, straight up no HUD gameplay. Simply turning off all the HUD elements in the settings menu and playing the game like you're showcasing it live on stage at E3 for the first time in order to capture some immersive first-person combat, which fortunately Doom has plenty of. The second method, and the way I captured the bulk of the footage for this edit, was using Doom's photo mode. Scrolling down the settings menu again and toggling the photo mode beta then lets you hit a button mid-game and pause the action to roam the area with a free camera. Doom 2016's photo mode is pretty rudimentary, but you're still able to adjust depth of field, FOV, levels of sharpness, contrast and saturation, even a couple of cool extras like lens flare, lens dirt and HDR bloom. It has all the tools you still need to grab some great stills in-game. Unfortunately, when it comes to doing any kind of video or motion, the photo mode it's exactly that, it's a photo mode, it's not geared up for shooting theatrical epics in-game. Fortunately, there is a small workaround for this. At least on console, when in photo mode, you can press the Y button to transition to the next frame, and it'll do that just as quickly as you're able to press the button, all while still moving the camera, meaning that you could, in fact, achieve some semblance of motion out of the enemies and environments, even if it's only a few frames a second. So, I would play through a section until I found a moment I liked, frame everything up and set my focus and effects, then hide the photo mode HUD, and then hammer the Y button to advance frames whilst panning or zooming the camera. That whole process looks something like this in practice. It's very makeshift, but once I'd spent a few hours messing with it, I knew I'd captured some clips I could work with. So, after filling up a hard drive with enough footage and spilling enough demon blood to fill up an Olympic-sized swimming pool, I set about organising what I'd captured and planning the structure of the edit. Inside Premiere Pro, I cut down what I'd captured into roughly 10 minutes of selects that I then colour-coded for ease. Green for environments, yellow for enemies, and blue for first person. There's a couple of shots I used here that I particularly like of the Doom Slayer himself. Unfortunately, in 2016's photo mode, the character model for the Slayer is invisible when roaming with the camera. However, you can cheat this slightly by using hologram grenades. The model is stationary and only uses a plasma rifle, but for this section I think it worked very well. To bring the photo mode clips up to a usable standard, I did a couple of things. Firstly, once I got my selects, I'd go down to the clip and speed duration and change the time interpolation to optical flow. Using this tool allows Premiere to interpolate missing frames in your footage, giving the appearance that it was shot at a higher frame rate. From there, I would simply adjust the speed of the clip anywhere from 200 to 500%, depending on what type of clip I was using and how fast or slow I'd move the camera when capturing. I deliberately made very slow movements in-game, knowing that I'd be speeding it up in the edit. If a shot still wasn't as smooth as I wanted it after increasing the speed, whether that was down to a bad camera movement or my thumb was getting tired from all the button mashing, I'd nest the clip and apply a warp stabilizer. This would, most of the time, iron out any of the last issues with the motion, so now it's ready to use. The structure of the edit itself was pretty straightforward. I knew I wanted a snappy opening to grab attention, a roughly even split between environments and slower panning shots in the build-up, along with fast-paced and action-heavy content in the second half. The whole thing is paced very tightly in time with the beats of the main track I chose, which at the time of editing had just been used in a new Doom Eternal trailer, coupled with a few extra elements like trailer-style impact hits and riffs from the stellar 2016 game soundtrack. It all came together pretty nicely. Adding in the finishing touches, I use a very basic colour grade to enhance some of the vibrancy and contrast while adjusting the white balance for each clip, adding in some graphical elements like rising embers behind text, lens flares and wipes to help mask transitions, as well as adding in some raw dialogue from the game and new trailers for added effect in the build-up. Very last thing was to add in the logos, and with that, we're done. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope this breakdown wasn't too boring. The full edit is up on the channel right now if you'd like to go and see the end product. I'm sure there'll be a link around here somewhere.